Well, it was a super day for one particular defensive tackle. We're talking about Inconvenient Suh, $114 million over 5 years, 60 of that guaranteed. That's a lot of money to give to a guy who's not a quarterback. Smart move by the Miami Dolphins, yes or no?
Go for it.
Ugh. How much of that is guaranteed for fines? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can spend that much money on a defensive player who doesn't bring, say, what a J.J. Watt brings. I know they play a little bit of a different...
The potential is there, though.
But you could say that, but Watt's putting up double-digit sacks every year. Suh has only done it once, and they're both in the same fourth. This is going to their fifth year, so I don't know if you can really say that.
I was saying Suh's got the most sacks out of any tackle.
I still don't know if he's worth
just
160
saying,
million.
Since he's coming into the league, he's has the most sacks out of any defensive tackle.
The one concern I have with him is the suspensions, fines, brain farts, if you want to call them that, where stepping on players, shots after the whistle. The last free agent that memory for me recalls is Mike Wallace. And what has he done in Miami since he left Pittsburgh? Absolutely nothing.
All right, guys. Well, in terms of the whole setup in itself, you look at the AFC East. You have the New York Jets, who need a quarterback, but had Brandon Marshall in there with Percy Harvin, so that's a great receiving tandem. You look at New England, it's New England. Buffalo's retooled. They picked up LaShawn McCoy.
Yep.
So if you look at all the teams in the East, they're doing something. The Dolphins had to do something here. Don't you think they got better, especially on that defensive side? Yeah, Cameron Wake, and you also have Inconvenient Suh. Yes or no? I think that's a great tandem.
I think they got better, but at what position are they going to be losing that money for possible free agents to build a team and make it better? That's my thought.
Okay, guys, how about this? Moving on to Frank Gore. Frank Gore was supposed to agree to terms with the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a little bit of cold feet, decided to move on and sign with the Indianapolis Colts earlier today. So, guys, when you look at what happened here, Frank Gore, did he make the best decision for Frank Gore going to Indy instead of Philly? In terms of his skill set and in terms of the playbook, was it the best decision?
I'd say it's probably, because I think Philly's more of a throwing, and Indy is throw heavy as well, but I think they're more established what you want to do for a run. And if I'm also looking at a team I want to go to, I'm going to take Indianapolis, who's more likely, I think, to go to a Super Bowl than, say, Philadelphia. In what Frank Gore has left in his playing career, you're going to win in Indy. You're not going to win in Philly.
Yeah, and I think Indy has a little bit more of a softer division. With Philadelphia, you got the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys. It's always a war right down to the end of the year in that division in the NFC. Whereas Indy, they don't have a cakewalk in their division in the AFC, but they get a few more easier games. I would much rather take handoffs from Andrew Luck than Foles in Philadelphia. So I think that long term, even though Frank Gore doesn't have a lot left in the tank, I think it will make more sense for him to sign in Indy.
If you're Chip Kelly, coach of the Eagles, are you worried that you had a guy that you agreed to, reneged on a deal, and you have Mark Sanchez back, no running back? Are you a little nervous?
I would be, because Chip Kelly always preaches high offense, high tempo, and there's not a lot in the cupboard in the running back position there left in the free agency pool right now.
Yeah, that's why pen to paper, make sure you get it done first before you put all your chips in the row. He's almost done this to himself, and now it's now you're scrambling.
You traded LaShawn McCoy, who had a good season
which
last year.
I still don't understand.
No,
McCoy had a great season. I know. He was on my fantasy team on 2 teams, and I had to ride that out. But the only thing between his bad year last year was that he didn't score touchdowns. That's the only thing, and I complained about that in fantasy football, is that he didn't score touchdowns. He had the yards. If you add a couple of touchdowns, he was a great fantasy player. But on a team like Philadelphia, he was still great yards, great in the receiving, rushing. He did everything. So that trade, I still don't understand.
There's usually winners and losers when it comes to free agency, especially the opening day. It looks like not just the opening day, but the last few weeks, the San Francisco 49ers have become the biggest losers. Patrick Willis set to retire. You look at the issues with Colin Kaepernick, Jim Harbaugh, who led you to a Super Bowl final 2 years ago.
Yep.
Canned. 2 NFC Championship games. Gone. Is there problems with San Francisco looming?
I think there is, and I feel really bad for that fan base, because it's a very passionate fan base, and building a new stadium where they did, tearing down Candlestick, I think they're going to have a hard time drawing fans back with the amount of changes they made. And their division rivals, you look at Arizona, you look at Seattle, they are two very competitive teams in the NFC West that San Fran is now probably 2 or 3 paces behind because of what has happened to their team, coaching-wise, free agency-wise, and retirement-wise.
Yeah, you can't even talk about them anymore in that winning that division. They're third at best at this point. And
I think fourth. They're dead last.
Yeah,
St. Louis is great.
Like,
that defense is great. Arizona's
give St. Louis a
improving.
year or two, and I think they'll be in that top echelon with Arizona, Seattle.
Yeah.
So you went from 2 to 3 years. You went from being a Super Bowl finalist to last place in your division, and there's so much that's gone on with that team. Like coach gone, running, like everybody's
Turmoil.
gone. Like it just kind of can show how much everything can implode so quickly. I don't know who you bring in or what can you're gonna have to do it quick because the fan base isn't going to want to live with that. But there's a lot of pieces that are gone that you don't replace overnight. You don't replace a head coach like that, a running back. You don't like the defense they have. You don't replace those guys overnight. So it's gonna be hard times in San Francisco for the coming future.
Yeah.
Here, guys, I'm going to give you a number. 14, as in 14 seconds. That's how long it took Ronda Rousey to win in 184, UFC 184. Her dominance has been exceptional. It rivals some of the most dominant individual athletes in sports in general. So what's next for Ronda Rousey? Can she still compete? Like in MMA?
I don't know what female would want to step in the ring because 14 seconds, that's, I mean, give me my check, put up with my 14 seconds, and peace out, I'll see you later.
Yeah,
But it's scary to think that she is as dominant as she is and really hasn't had much of a challenge from anybody that's wanted to step into the ring with her.
You figure she's had 11 fights. 2 of them have gone longer than the first. 3 of them have gone longer than the first minute. 2 of them were against Miesha Tate in Strikeforce and then UFC, and the other one was 1:06. Everything else has been a minute. Like, I don't even want to step in the ring with her. Like, it's really, I don't know if it's hurt what's going on there.
Well, there's the question then.
Yeah.
Does her dominance hurt the sport of MMA for women?
I think it does, and the comparison I'm going to use is Canada and the States in women's hockey. They crushed everybody year after year after year, and it wasn't until Russia, China, some of these other countries started kicking in some money, Finland is another one, until they started kicking in some money to develop their programs, develop some training techniques, travel to Canada, travel to the States to compete against these teams, that the gap in women's hockey is starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, whether you can do that with individual women or not, probably not, but there's a comparison as far as the gap is this wide, now it's shrunk down. The gap in UFC right now with women fighters is humongous right now compared champion to any challenger there.
So does this mean for Ronda Rousey she's got to fight a man in order to actually to bring in some of the ratings?
It might have to, and they're never going to do that. No one's ever going to sanction that fight. Hopefully, I pray to God they don't. But I think for the UFC, they can no longer put her, I don't think, as the headline. You can never have a Ronda Rousey versus X as your main event, because what fan is going to want to buy this knowing that she's going to beat someone in 15 seconds that, Bruce Buffer's introductions 4 times as long as her matches are going to be. Like, I don't know if I'm not going to go buy the money, put the money out there to watch a 14-second clip that I can go watch on YouTube probably the next day for 14 seconds, 15 seconds. Like, maybe you might hit a minute. I'm not going to spend the money on something like that. And so how does the UFC going to be like, we're going to women's MMA?
Yeah,
you're only going to watch like a minute of it.
You know what's also longer than those fights by Ronda Rousey? Our commercial breaks, because that's what we need to do right now. All right, guys, we'll be back with Over Under coming up next.